Okay, welcome to the barn where we are streaming a live solo Shakuhachi concert. And great to see everybody over on the chat box. This is the first time we've done this. We expected the day to be a lot less intensive than driving into San Francisco, finding parking, meeting up with Kiku, who of course isn't here, who's back still in Denmark. That was the original plan for the day at Old First Concerts in San Francisco. Thinking that YouTube Live with a scheduled video like this, where you all had the link, would be easy to do. Naively, we thought we could use the phone, which we spent 3 hours figuring out how to not use the phone to do this. So the computer's in the kitchen. And the sound, we were a little concerned about the sound. We weren't sure if it sounded good. The phone, we know, sounds good. So the first song is just going to get kind of a sound check. So if it's like really crappy, just sort of sit through it. It's a fast, energetic song anyway. I like to design my sets like this for solo Shakuhachi, where it's high energy, medium, very internalized, contemplative, and then back out the other side. So that's the goal here today. And what everyone's going to need to be even more familiar with. And by the way, I meant to make sure we mentioned you can keep your phones on. You could take the old freedom. Also, I can still tell if you're clapping. I can't really hear you, but I can tell. So don't. You can whistle, or you can not clap, or you could do the. For my students out there with the pinky exercise training, that counts as clapping. If you can hear that, then we're doing pretty good for subtle sound. So I'll talk about Shakuhachi a little bit more, but I did want to make sure I don't babble too much today and just do a lot of music for all of you who are out there in computer land, let's say. It's actually not a different land, but we're reaching out through the computer. I probably shouldn't do that, but it's kind of fun. So small flute, high energy, elemental, solo, instrumental, Shakuhachi music. Shakuhachi is a stripped down archetype of woodwinds. And this piece is called Underground Sun. So hold on, it's a little bit of a flashy piece. After that, we're going to get to the textured tones. Underground Sun. Thank you. Thank you, everyone out there. We're up to about 4,400 viewers. No, just 44. But the value of each of you is about 1,000 per person. But value is relative, and so is T. So are sounds and music. You can see I'm stalling just to rest a little bit after that. Let's just go to the chat box. To the chat box, yeah. Play my. So okay, yeah, 720 maybe. Just keep it at 720, and maybe it'll be all right. We'll just keep going, as opposed to the only other option is to switch to the phone. Hello, people in Bloomington. Switch to the phone, which would be a whole different event. And we've invested a lot in this. Look at, it's just climbing. The thumbs are going up. So those of you who are dealing with crappy sound, we're going to stick with this for a little while. And I noticed that by wearing my like George Spellman outfit, which means I can move things on stage and not be seen, ideally it would just look like a head playing shakuhachi in the corner here when I'm in the shadows. So the idea is I'm going to do about 7 or 8 pieces, different flute sizes, and mostly original pieces. That was a piece of mine, Underground Sun, obviously a showcase piece inspired by Colin Stetson, who's one of the only other people doing this kind of full tilt, full body solo woodwind composition and performance. So, you know, he kind of, if I go and watch him, which I recommend you do, that's COLIN son of Stet, Colin. And he's playing a bass saxophone, singing, playing percussion on the keys, really raises the whole bar of woodwind wizardry. So I encourage everybody else to do that. Musicians, in my experience, we'd like to play solo. But if there isn't a tradition on your instrument of performing solo, there's like a huge hurdle to get to that. So luckily, shakuhachi is the only woodwind with a solo repertoire established, according to my armchair research. And it's a significant repertoire called Honkyoku, which are Zen Buddhist nature hymns, and I'm going to do at least one of those a little bit later. So this next piece is a brand new one, Bamboo Breather Blues. Bamboo breather is how I self-identify, and because I don't meet that many other bamboo breathers, I get the bamboo breather blues, basically, pretty often. So this is what the bamboo breather blues sounds like. It's very succinct and requires moisturization. Okay, this is a little bit of a bigger flute. All right, thank you very much. That's a new one that kind of combines a lot of riffs and isms of my basic approach, which, if you haven't been able to tell yet, I like to compose using what we call in the inner art of music composition, riffs. And while I'm mentioning other musicians who are influences on me, another person who understands the art of the riff is a man named Gentry Densley in Salt Lake City, whose band Eagle Twin has 3 incredible albums. So I recommend going over to Bandcamp and checking those out. Eagle Twin. So the riff can be a melody. The riff is a bass line or a pattern, and often it needs to be longer than what a woodwind player's breath can allow. It also needs to usually link back up to itself. Hence the requirement for circular breathing. Circular breathing phrased, that's what gives people the wrong idea of what it's for. So this whole joining the rhythm section modality is something that I've been doing on first Barry sax and contrabass clarinet in the mid-90s, then bass clarinet for about 20 years, and now on the big flutes and the littler flute like I started with. That's kind of what I've been exploring. So now you're exploring it with me. And the next piece, let's look at the chat box. Somebody wrote something that's questionable. Uh-oh. Somebody used a curse word. Okay, I'm going to allow it so you can see who, and a lot of other bamboo breathers. So today I don't actually have the bamboo breather blues. We have the technology should serve people, not the other way around blues. But we're getting past that. It's serving us all now at the moment. So this next piece is called Holy Old Soul. And a lot of you know that I wrote this and then I dedicated it to Ludo, that was my cat, or he still is my cat. He just doesn't have a body anymore, so he might not be a cat per se. but he did leave his body just about a month ago exactly. And he's a holy old soul. He lived to be almost 19. And probably we knew each other before that in other places and times. So this is always kind of dedicated to him. And the one after that will be as well, which is my new Coltrane arrangement. But Holy Old Soul, while we're doing a little class here, if you guys didn't see, this is like master class, like David Lynch or Martin Scorsese, or $10,000 per semester value. Everybody's comped now because we made a deal with our toilet paper supplier. So you couldn't get out of it without saying strange times and mentioning toilet paper. I apologize. I fall into all the cliches, but you expected it. Somebody wrote a paragraph over here. Wow, that is great. Yes, I saved that for after, Sean. I got to get through the set, and then we'll do some questions. Yeah. Well, this is one. This is one answer. We do lots of. Didn't quite pop that time, but we got to extend the spine back out after all this reaching. If anybody's familiar with the Jedi Council members in Episode 1, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, a lot of people recognized early on that there's a Yariel poof aspect to when us playing these flutes. And so, yeah, there's no keys. And so to get lower notes, you got to reach further. And that's just the way it is. And we like the lower notes. They have a texture that's like, why would you like flourless chocolate cake as opposed to say, that's the flourless chocolate cake of the woodwind world. So Holy Old Soul has 3 sections, which I'm always writing songs as a beginning, middle, end. Like these are instrumental stories. First section is a blues. It's very like our Zen pieces. So phrases, no circular breathing permitted. Second section is a sort of contemplative chord progression, but just played solo. So circular breathing, maybe, if you need to, maybe not. Third section is composed and only possible to conceive of if you know how to do rhythm section mode, bass roll, circular breathing playing on a woodwind instrument. So it goes through those 3 sections, just not by, that was the plan, but energetically, that's what happens. Uh-oh, frozen screen boost from Surly Biker. I thought it said Sergeant Baker, but it's Surly Biker. Sorry about that. Let's hope that the screen unfreezes and we can all enjoy Holy Old Soul. All right. Thank you. Oh, well, thanks. Thank you very much. You guys are very to have fun, but you know, you got to get through. You got to use the reward system sometime. So the next piece is on a new flute, not a new flute, but a different flute than what you've been hearing. And I'm gonna take a look at the chat box here. That's our pattern we've gotten into. We can't talk to the people, and by we I mean me, and by the people I mean you. Thanks. Yes, it is. I don't know the difference between techno and German techno, but I'll take your word for it. Hey there, Gordon. That's great. So if we could even get Gordon's just down the street, but he's chiming in the same as Bain all the way over in the UK. Nicholas from France. These are fellow bamboo breathers. Thumbnail. But anyway, so this is the 2.9, which is a bigger flute, even more of a stretch. And what has happened was last year around this time, I was getting my first Coltrane arrangement, spiritual, and that song worked incredibly well. Coltrane is probably at the pinnacle of my pantheon of woodwind wizardry, right up there with Rahsaan Roland Kirk and Eric Dolphy. And these are the people that influenced myself and a bunch of the rest of us. And many of Coltrane's pieces played on shakuhachi are experienced by us that play the Buddhist pieces is very similar to the mindset. The harmonic vocabulary is different, but the pacing, the phrasing, and the sort of focus on a park bench that you just had to stay there from 4 weeks ago. But you could even go further in, and that's what shakuhachi and Zen really offers, is a variety of tools, methods, perspectives, teachings, and wisdom about doing that. So this piece really does that even more than some of our Zen pieces. It's called Wise One, and this is my new arrangement. This is the premiere of the bass shakuhachi arrangement of John Coltrane's Wise One. For a mild intermission. Oh, you're welcome. People love Coltrane. There is a really good Coltrane documentary that was on PBS. I don't know if it's on Netflix or not. Speaking of Netflix, I thought that it was a little strange 3 weeks ago that maybe people were already restless without that much to do. If you're not aware, the classic Twilight Zone episodes are all on Netflix, and so is Twin Peaks. These are two of the best things ever made for not just television, but for media. They're two of the best things involving something that humans created in terms of storytelling. So if you can find cherries, maybe forage for cherries, you can make some cherry pie. I don't know if you could forage for coffee, beans, but people are still going to the grocery store. So the original plan was to then do Tamuke on the 3.2, which I think will hopefully fit in the screen. It's the same height as well, it's a little taller than my leg. But we weren't sure about the sound quality and subtlety. It's really the pinnacle of subtlety if we were going to do that piece on this flute. So I'm a little on the fence about it. Yeah, Moon River. Yeah, no, he used that interval, but it's called Wise One, and I do recommend listening to that. I mean, subtlety and nuance in an internal way on the tenor sax is possible. It's not necessarily the main way you hear it, but that piece is always played that way by Coltrane. So maybe what I'll do is, this might be Tamuke and it might not be. Oh good. Somebody was playing along. Yeah. Well, yeah, we used to watch the Twin Peaks, the entire series, maybe once a year, and those were super crappy VHS tapes. SLP. Raise your hand if you remember what that means. I know Bane is raising his hand. Yeah, it means you could put 6 hours of TV shows on a videotape, which means that the quality is even worse than probably what you're getting of this. Okay, so this is like, let's call this Tamuke or improvisation on. Tamuke is a piece that means hands folded in prayer. It's the requiem piece of our repertoire. So I'm going to do that piece and then a piece called Ajikan, which these are from our Zen Buddhist repertoire called Honkyoku. These are solo, unaccompanied nature and chant based pieces or Buddhist philosophy, which if you think about, we have nature out there and nature in here, to use James Hillman. It's a little Jungian archetypal psychology jargon there, but everybody knows what we mean. Nature in here is also nature. And so Ajikan comes from esoteric Buddhism, as ah is the first sound. Where it says in the beginning was the word in the Bible or somewhere says that. It's not really the word, it's really more the syllable. And music and language kind of split off and intermingle from that point on. So getting back to the source, the one sound. I meant to mention that at the beginning. That's really all we're concerned with here. The one sound. From the point of view of structure, might seem a little simplistic, but that's all we're developing at the end of the day on this vertical dimension. You can see this flute is a vertical flute. Vertical woodwind. The flute means you're holding it out this way. And the energetically, your own experience, it's really different with the sound reflecting your inner column channel. So the pieces, according to me, are just ways the sound. Because if something is mono and unchanging, it's hard to know it. That's not how our conscious cognition awareness works. So now that the viewership hasn't dropped off, see, I'm babbling here, but armchair metaphysics, that's my specialty. All right, so I may end up just doing Tamuke, or this may be improvisation based on the challenge of me trying to play Tamuke. Okay, that was the big flute. This is what's really big. Let's not dwell on that. That was a new flute last year. It was just born last year, made by our good friend Ken Mujitsu Lacoste, who, similar to my cat Ludo, is no longer in a physical body, therefore can no longer make us giant bamboo flutes. But we have a lot to be grateful for, and we got to work together quite a bit. And he was actually at the barn for the very first time, April 2nd last year, and brought, among other flutes, that flute before it had any holes in it. So I'm going to actually find the video he took of me playing right here. Well, the table was here, I was here, and Ken was there. And I mean, I knew it was going to be an amazing flute. It had no finger holes. You could still make the one sound. And we're going to continue with Ajikan without too much ado, which I haven't memorized, but we've got our reliable, handy, trusty Zen style score over here. This is not a notation that you wanna second guess. It looks like this. Yeah, some of you are clever. You might take a screenshot of that and try to play this score. Good luck. However, I do teach Shakuhachi lessons for those of you that are just joining us. This flute is called the Shakuhachi. It is the ancient bamboo flute of Japanese Zen Buddhism. What I think is the main design point of Shakuhachi as a woodwind, similar to other cultural contributions, let's say, that Japan is particularly good at, in my opinion, which is distillation. Simplifying into the core essence of something as opposed to a kind of, let's say, low mode reductionistic simplification. That is just a lot more common in, let's say, world leadership, for instance, these days. That doesn't help us, but distillation into the essence of something does. And I gotta say, again and again, you find it from Japanese culture and things infused with a Zen philosophy and returning their reference point to nature, let's say. And what would nature do, let's say? There's a bumper sticker. By the time we're done with this, I expect to have somebody have made that bumper sticker. Ajikan. Thank you very much. Welcome. To those of you just joining us for our second hour, we're doing a little solo Shakuhachi concert here at the barn. This is where we live. It's just this room. So the bed's there and the fridge is there. I'm joking, but it is one room. There's really only one ceiling. Okay, so there's somebody who needs some, somebody that said you suck. That's held for review. So we're going to hide that. And then they said hello several times. So hopefully they get their self together. Let's see. Let's get caught up here. Oh, great! Look at that. Kevin got a picture of a little guy there. I was incredibly excited. Though some of you know that I've been very into delving really deep, taking the deep dive with Sun House. Sun House is one of the icons of Delta blues. And luckily they recorded him they meaning the young folk hippies that dug up all these blues fossils that had retired in the early 60s, like 1960. And so there's and Son House just has, I could go on, but I should write a whole little blog or a book about what I aspire to that he can do very well. Granted, a lot of the time he's doing it quite drunk, but still doing it, what he does while intoxicated is impressive. He was an alcoholic, but he lived very long time. So I have actually a playlist on my YouTube channel called something like Deep Blues of Son House, and I've gathered things from YouTube, an amazing resource. You wonder, why are we on YouTube instead of Facebook Live? Cornelius, what's up with that? Well, I kind of like YouTube, and part of the reason is if we had had this resource in the 90s in school, we probably could have written our papers in about a half hour, just from the research of what we could see, hear, watch, and learn and experience from musicians that have existed in the last, I would say 100 years, but the film stuff just goes back maybe 60, 70 years at the most, some early film. Anyway, he babbles on quite a bit in his concerts, and it's very entertaining. But I do intend to make a mix where I just string the songs together, because he always says the same stuff about the blues. The blues, BLUES, isn't just some foolishness. It means something, and it means that something exists between male and female. And he goes on kind of like that. So let's see what's on the next. Oh yeah, so blues, we're coming back to blues actually. And we've just got a couple more pieces before we wrap up. I think I got behind on the, let's see if anyone else thinks that this is good or that this, yeah. Okay, people are chatting. Oh no, somebody's redacted their own comments. I think the FBI's gotten involved here. I think it's because I mentioned Son House. He was a real enemy of the state. He talked about male and female. So we also, now this year has been a fascinating year for people, as we say, leaving planet Earth, people who have been a big part of my life. So this tea that I drink every day was sourced by a fellow named Master Wong. And in the fall, he also left us. And as I mentioned back in June, Ken, who made all of these flutes, except for the little one, thank you, John Kipros, if you're out there watching, Ken left. And then my cat, Ludo. And then we just found out 2 or 3 days ago, Mark Stickman, who was my engineer, my post-production engineer for all my last 4 albums, has left his body. And it was, I believe, maybe heart failure. And he'd been struggling with things for a while in terms of health, but his ears were always healthy. And we had amazing long sessions mixing and editing the last 3 albums. And if those of you who have worked with me know that the word like nuanced, subtle, and perfectionist just come a little bit close to what we're going for. It's a very exposed instrument. So he had to put up with all kinds of back and forth and trying to dial in the kind of sounds we wanted. And fortunately, I really feel like we got what I was hoping for, which is the template for what I hope, whether it's something like this, a broadcast. I think we'll be broadcasting, live streaming, even once we're back in real venues, so that we can still do this and with an audience. It's a no-brainer. We got to get that going. But the transmitting the best sound quality we can is kind of the growing edge. And so the recordings that I made with Mark are going to be my gold standard for the sound, especially for Taimu, what we were able to come up with. Karen Stackpole was the recording engineer, also recorded in a barn, and then Mark and I worked for hours and hours, days, months on all those albums. And Mark was just endlessly like a font of knowledge on everything. So the only other person I could talk to extensively about Swamp Thing and Son House, and would always know maybe 10 times more than anything I could discover. And so I was reading this book about blues and the devil, and it's an incredible book. And I'm just thinking about talking to him about it, but he decided to graduate. And so I'm going to dedicate this next piece to Stickman and all of our Bay Area musicians that are really suffering from his his Exodus. This is called Purgatory, which I hope Stigman doesn't hang out in too long unless he really wants to. It's an original of mine, and it was the first piece, the first of my original pieces I think I premiered live, and I premiered it in November of 2009 on a studio trip that we took to Japan with Michael Chikuzen Gould, and my teacher, and a bunch of other people. So I played this first in Kyoto at a recital, and it was super difficult for me at the time. So I don't know if I sound that much better 10 years later, but it's a lot easier to play now. So this is one of my early bamboo breathing blues big flute pieces, Purgatory. And we're thinking about you, Stickman. Okay, that's it for the big flutes. Everybody, I think I'm going to wrap up with one more small flute piece, even though that had a high energy ending. What I like to do is send people out the door back into the street with some high energy. And you can do that in your mind palace while you stay on your sofa. Let's just check in here. And so for those of you who want to stick around after, we're just going to keep this on for a little while and see how this founder's breakfast stout tastes, and see if somebody can get a hold of me, because if you don't have my phone number, you can't call me, and I'm not going to put it on YouTube. But if you have my phone number, you can call me, or send me your phone number and email, or just type it in over here. Hey, if I'm not mistaken, there's a pipa player in the house. Maybe not, but if there is, good on you. Oh, good. Hey, look at that. We've got some people from our. Hey, thanks, Vaughn. We got some people from the famous E3 appearance, which, as you know, like I mentioned the FBI earlier, I was no longer permitted to wear that. I had been wearing that outfit at gigs for like 20 years, and that was like my big culmination. And then I never could find it. Somebody broke into the dressing room after, stole the outfit. It doesn't exist. I'm joking. I got hired for that gig, and I knew on the way there they're going to make me wear a stupid hat, which they did. And it was because the people in the video game are dressed like that. Well, some of the people, and so they just thought it would be great. So the costume part wasn't necessarily that brilliant. It felt cool to wear, but not the hat part. I mean, the hat. I mean, I can't even wear hair, or I can't. I'm getting signals. All these pieces are coming from my home planet. So everything's all quiet on the chat box over here. Good. Yeah. That's because I hid the comment that said you suck. But they did use the letter U, so at least they didn't exert too much effort. Yeah. Yeah, maybe we are from a planet that's called the Empty Bell, the Kyo planet. So I'm just going to do Beautiful Demon, our last piece of the day, and then see if any of you have questions, if you're still around. Somebody else asked about, Sean asked about, making sure that the arms aren't in pain after playing. And let's see if we can hear. No, it didn't pop. The vertebrae get stage fright. So here's Beautiful Demon. You're welcome. Hey, Kipros is on. He made this flute. Look, he made this flute in 2008. And there's nothing inside. Emptiness and the bamboo texture. That's the key to the equation. Emptiness, bamboo texture, vital breath, messages from home. Okay, thanks everybody. I thought of a few more things to say. That piece is on my last album, Sacred Root, Shakuhachi Unleashed Volume 3, Kung Fu Flute and Buddhist Blues. Purgatory, the one before that, was on the Volume 1, which is called Holy Flute, and all that's over at Bandcamp. You can go to corneliusboots.com. Also, I didn't really make it clear at the beginning, this was a rescheduled online version of the Old First Church, Old First Concerts in San Francisco show that we were going to be doing with Kiku Day, who is a great shakuhachi player that lives in Denmark, but she was in the Bay Area where we are apparently 15 years ago, because somebody posted a picture of us jamming in 2005. I thought it was 10 years ago, but time flies when you are playing shakuhachi. So that is postponed, and luckily I've been cultivating for 10 years the solo repertoire anyway. It's a part of the shakuhachi tradition, and it's part of the fun of living out in the woods, being apparently more than moderately, let's not call it antisocial, let's call it not as social as other people are seeming that they are. I'm very impressed, actually, not just with how people seem to really need other people, which is fantastic, but musicians also, fellow musicians that were already feeling the squeeze, not just from all their tours and gigs being canceled. And I only play 1.5 shows per year, so it's not that. No, I play more than that, but I don't rely on the tours and performances for my bread and butter at this juncture. That being said, because this was a reschedule for a live concert, you'll see in the description of this, there's a little thing that says support, and on the contact page of corneliusboots.com is also a donate section that's been there. You know, everybody puts that on just in case somebody comes along who's feeling super generous. And so that's where that link goes to. If any of you are feeling like, well, that was definitely worth a $5 ticket price admission, you could go hit that donate. It's a PayPal donate button. So that's the case there. I'm sure we'll get back into Old First Church before you can say Sun House. I don't know what it would be before you could say. But the blues is not just some foolishness. It means something. Remember that. So I'm going to come over here a little bit closer and see if we have any great questions. Hey, nice. Wow, thanks. Okay. That's right. Yeah, that was, so Kiku was at Mills, and Teresa introduced me to her. Yeah, sure. That's also possible. You can also just go to just PayPal. If you already have a personal relationship to PayPal, if you have a personal relationship to Venmo, that might not help, but I haven't been on that. Hey, Josh, thanks for coming in. I'm glad everybody enjoyed themselves. Did anybody have questions, like about the arrangements, about my theories on, I don't know, I'm forgetting what I have theories on. I have theories on just about everything. But yeah, it is pretty dark, Vaughn. He's right. So I'll switch to talking about beer now, if that's okay. So Vaughn, and he's not alone, enjoys a Guinness now and then, and there's nothing wrong with that. But my experience was that gigs, being a dark beer only drinker, more or less until maybe recently, I don't really love Guinness, and the drink tickets. You know, as a musician, you get paid in drink tickets. That's part of why my bread and butter is not performing, because living in Chicago, you would just be drunk all the time, which would get you closer to the Sun House aesthetic. But like I said, not everybody's built like he was. So anyways, yeah, I tried over and over to use the drink ticket for a Guinness, and it was never fully satisfying. So what we're doing here is a shout out to the Midwest. You know, we get Founders here now. Founders comes from Michigan, I think, right? And this, I just love the label. This is a great label. This will probably be the still for the concert, for the video. And so it's oatmeal stout, obviously, but it's a double chocolate coffee oatmeal stout. And obviously, I already poured a lot out, so it's a base beer bottle now. Oh, yeah, okay. Good question, Surly Biker. Colin is a saxophone guy. Actually, he's a multi-instrumentalist. And he was a Bay Area colleague out here, but he's been in Canada for a long time. He's always up to crazy projects. He rearranged a Penderecki, either a Threnody or a Symphony. I can't remember what it is. And he's a sideman with this, played with Arcade Fire and Bon Iver, and but I'm a real big fan of his solo bass saxophone playing. Hey, it's Dawn. Hey, that's great. Okay, and I was going to mention, Dawn, you know, Twilight Zone's all on Netflix. Okay, well, cheers, everybody. Looks like we've only lost a couple viewers since I stopped playing and started talking about beer, so we can see how you all think. Here's a question from Frigital. Good question, Frigital. Cheers, Nicholas. I don't believe you, Bane. Bane doesn't really like blueberry pancake stout. He just likes to say that he does. He likes lemon curd biscuit stout. Yeah, so here's the thing with the posture. You're already on YouTube, so you can open a second tab. You can put in the words Chase, get it on, live, TV, something like that. There's one spot of the band, the great band Chase, led by the great trumpet jock Bill Chase. And it's just a pelvic envelope supporting and drawing up energy through the feet, and it supports the abdominal breath and the breathing diaphragm. And you'd be amazed how much easier it makes it. The way I play is not necessarily through it's not necessarily through lung capacity. That's a lot of people's ideas. That you have big lung capacity. I'm not so sure about that, but I know how to use it and line up your power. Breathing and deep breathing, deep conscious abdominal based breathing is a huge part of what we're doing. And it makes you feel good. Everybody should be working on it. You know, there's a phrase that popped into my head that we're not going to dwell on because it might be a little bit out of taste. But the phrase was "breathe while you can," which is just always good advice. Let's see. Let's go to some more questions. It's awkward not having any sound. It would be great if this would read these out loud. Can't find you on PayPal. Yeah, I don't know. Cornelius Boots. CB at Cornelius Boots. I am going to give that out. The phone number I'm not giving out. If somebody has my phone number, they can call me, but my ringer's off. You know, with like a real question. Yeah, so hope everybody's doing good. Oh, I see the name Dio. Excuse me, I was interrupting myself by being concerned about everybody's situation. Somebody's talking about Dio, so let's go see what they're saying. Oh, cool. Thanks. That's right. Yeah, we did that down in the South Bay, and I played some Dio for some people. I think they enjoyed it. Another great tool for YouTube. Unfortunately, there still isn't that many great actual live footage of Ronnie singing with Rainbow, but that's one of the good things about it. Yes, yes, Lamont. So that's become a thing now. If you look into who's teaching breathing and conscious breathing out in the world, it has a little bit of a it can have a sort of a touchy-feely, floaty, new agey space to it, which makes sense because the breath. There's nothing there. This woman, this doctor, Belissa Vranich, it's Belissa with a B, Vranich, Vranich. If you can still hear me or not.
Lamont is Clint.
Oh, good. Okay. That's okay. Yeah. Well, and we're back. So that's her. She has a new book called Breathing for Warriors, and this ripped dude on the cover with all these tattoos or whatever. So they've really swung to the other side. Here's the touchy-feely breathing for health and fixing your own brokenness people. And then here's what Belissa Vranich is doing in terms of like helping snipers think much clearer. So I'm not so into, I'm not that concerned about people who are putting themselves and other people in danger getting clarity through breathing. But hey, it's a non-dual technique. Let's see. Oh, that's a good question. Wow, somebody's really on it. Thanks to Gudrun, Edda, and Ura. We do have a show scheduled at this same time next Sunday. Solo Shakuhachi Sunday concerts. Of course, next Sunday is Easter Sunday. We already have our Phillips. So the idea was the shelter home was to end on the 7th, and we were going to do a small group concert from Daryl's place in San Francisco next Sunday. Probably that's not going to happen. The goal is to get not just maybe beer, but also maybe donuts and pancakes, and do an Easter show here. So what I was thinking was if we just do this again next Sunday at 2, the program could be comprised of either all meditation pieces and no talking until the end, or requests based on all the pieces I have on Bandcamp, and you can go pick your favorites and then send me an email or get it to me somehow, and I'll collate the requests, and it'll just be a by requests set next Sunday. So those are my two. I don't know if we can use the phone for it. So that's the idea. I guess Sean disappeared. Sean was asking, like I said, about not hurting your arms. Anybody that's suffering from tendonitis or tennis elbow, you have to use bigger muscles to do these things. So what tends to happen is when we're playing really big flutes or playing the piano for a long time or whatever, is this will come out and this will come out, and then this is the last place that the whole thing is not flying off your body. And so all your tension from thinking so much comes up into the head, out into the hands, and then you end up putting stress on where the tendons and muscles connected to the elbow and at the shoulder. So you want to use your big muscles. They say lift with the thighs, not with your back when you're moving. It's the same with anything that goes like this, where you want to use your shoulders, get them back, use bigger back muscles to support and hold the flute, and this just for fine tuning. So that's easier said than done, but that's the idea.
Dawn had a second part to her question.
Oh, good. Let's see. Can you share with us something at the top of your future wish list to learn to play that you've never said before? Oh, you mean like a new piece? Is that right? Is that how you would interpret that? Yeah.
Or another Coltrane piece.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the idea that my process goes something like this on all my instruments, where I learn the instrument. Okay, that's the idea. So I learn the instrument with something like the classical repertoire, whatever's around. And here's one of the challenges. If you're an innovator these days, you're put out here at the fringes. That's not how it used to be. Every art form was like 50-50, which is my approach. Most of my colleagues on here, that's their approach, where you learn everything that came before, and then you do something new because you have something to say, because you understand the craft. And that's kind of logical, but markets don't necessarily support that. Markets support people knowing what they already know, and they're uncomfortable with uncertainty, as we can see. Oh, well, thanks, Relentless Cactus. I really appreciate that. And so on the bass clarinet, which some of you know me as bass clarinet guy, and then shifting to shakuhachi, which was kind of like my hobby. Yeah. I restarted that process. You learn the classical repertoire, jazz, maybe if it's a jazz instrument, which clarinets are, and then you start doing something new, or me, I should say, I start doing something new and do what's called cover songs or arrangements, because I'm trying to take apart these pieces, distill their essence, see if they can survive being put into just this voice. And so that's the idea behind what then becomes cover songs. And this is going to be a long process of doing these, like, let me see if Iron Maiden works on the shakuhachi. Why? Yes, it does. Not every song will work, but a lot of them work. And this Coltrane thing is kind of like really bridging the gap back, where it feels very similar to the traditional pieces. So there's a handful of other Coltrane. There's basically potentially a whole Coltrane album in the works, and so far we have 2. Although I have 2 others that I'm practicing, and then there's one that I'm transcribing, and that's still a secret. But I'll tell you guys privately, so you can listen to it on YouTube. He has a lot of really deep emotional pieces, actually. Of course, a huge repertoire, and a really deep individual, deep and cosmic. Maybe we should find maybe I can get my production team to find the link to the Coltrane Church, because there aren't. I haven't. Hey, thanks, Samar Pan David. I appreciate that. I would give that a thumbs up. That's not a feature here. There is actually a Church of John Coltrane in San Francisco, and I've only been once. But as soon as we're released back into the wild, not only will I be going out for pancakes every morning, we'll probably organize a whole shakuhachi field trip in the Bay Area to get to the Coltrane Church again. I've only been once, and I played along with them. You can sort of play. So music as ministry takes on a whole new level in the Coltrane Church, which has existed for 50 years. Orthodoxy. Can't remember the full name of the sect of the church, but the like venerable King, Reverend King, I think is still his whole family's involved, and it's just amazing. Hours of just sort of soaking in this deep, earthy, and cosmic mindset of Coltrane, and a lot of his pieces that were instrumental, they've written lyrics to. So a lot of these pieces, like I'm transcribing, they've actually turned into hymns, like sort of gospel hymns with a whole choir singing as well, or a small.
ColtraneChurch.org, and it won't let me post it in the chat box.
Oh yeah, ColtraneChurch.org. And so they've got little booklets, which they were out of, which sort of collects all the quotes that Coltrane has ever said about spirituality, personal development, and music, and really, really profound little collection of like interviews, and then other stuff they've got on there. What do you mean, a Swedish pancake deal? What does that mean?
Will Faber had a question a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, in Chicago, I got great Swedish pancakes. There's a place when I lived in Chicago that's called, what is that place called? It's under the train at the Belmont stop, and there's also one out on the northeast side of town. It'll pop into my head. Yeah, I would always get Swedish pancakes with lingonberry, scrambled eggs with feta. Okay, Will. What does Will say? I don't see it.
A little bit earlier.
Oh, I see. Oh, right. Oh, good. Right. Oh, that's actually a really good question. Wow. Everybody else should open a beer. We might be here for a while. Yeah, Clint, come back around, or let's look up on the little box here. Good. Back up to Cloverdale. And Sather. That's exactly it. I'm already talking to Will. And I'll come back to Will's question. But Bonnie asked if I perform well-known classical pieces. Yeah. Hey, Harrington. Hope Mr. D. Dionyso. The piece I played, Ajikan, are pretty well known. So yeah, there's a classical repertoire of, depending on the sect you look at, 36 to like, dozens and dozens of these solo pieces that were from monasteries collected over 100-year periods. A lot of conflicting histories with where the pieces come from, but they have basically survived and people have been trained in them. So you can kind of train in those pieces, as I did with my teacher, and absorb that tradition. And then you can go deeper into, there's court music, there's folk songs. So those are basically the three categories of pieces that I was learned in when I was doing lessons for a long time. Honkyoku, the Zen traditional pieces, the folk Japan, which is just basically like the equivalent of starting with learning nursery rhymes on an instrument here. And then Jiuta or Sankyoku or Shinkyoku ensemble court music with koto, shamisen, and shakuhachi, which I've played, but it's not my specialty. These flutes aren't really well suited to that. So that's a good question. Swamp Thing definitely links up with Zen Buddhism and with Taoism. Anybody that's read the Alan Moore arc of Swamp Thing and knows about Parliament of the Trees, it's like some of the most. Oh, hey, Loki. Hey, David. It's some of the most distilled and high-level storytelling. I feel like Alan Moore is always getting his story to the place of the reader in a place of transformation, if not apotheosis. Very few other authors do that so well, and hopefully Nils is out there nodding his head and saying yes. Right on. So, I mean, there's probably other reasons people love Alan Moore, but he's really good at that, and he was really good in the Swamp Thing arc of taking this sort of nature wisdom and bringing it into an important place in the story. And so, what I've done in my practice is these pieces. I mean, the other Zen solo pieces are, like I say, nature out there, nature in here. So a lot of the nature out there titles are such like Saga Riha, Falling Leaves, Takeyoshi, Waterfall, Distant Cry of the Deer, the Crane pieces, Sanya, Three Valleys, all these other kinds of, oh, that's a good, and you get something like that. So nature pieces for a solo contemplative sort of a person just sort of hanging out, Delta blues. Now that history of Mississippi blues and all the blues, guitar playing blues, now guitar singer, guitar playing blues from the South, that is actually a lot trickier than what we think. We sort of think about that distillation of the guitar slinging blues man going from town to town, getting great skills from the devil, having all the women that he wants, using his lyrics to give the finger to white devils, while also embodying the devil that's useful to him. They actually started playing that style of blues because blues got really, really popular, and it got popular in the 20s in the cities with the sort of like the Smiths, not the 80s band the Smiths, but not Ma Rainey, but Bessie Smith, Clara Smith, and Mamie Smith, who aren't all related, but they were all like these badass female blues singers playing with essentially jazz bands that sound just like Duke Ellington or Jelly Roll Morton bands, or in some cases playing with Louis Armstrong. And so the word blues and songs that were called blues got super popular on the radio. Radio was new, recording was new. This was like 1920 and 23, 25 were some of these hits. The first jazz record was only 1917. And so blues started getting popular. And if you were playing juke joints in the South as a solo guitarist, or if you were playing, as a piano player, you wanted to play what was popular, what people wanted to hear. So if they were getting, those songs were getting to them through radio, you would learn them. And so some of the deeper folk pieces that have their basis in fiddle and banjo from the South They were being converted to guitar. Originally, the people that became guitarists were not. There was no guitar. Guitar was a parlor thing that mostly women played. And then the steel string guitar that you could mail order from a catalog, boom, that came along. Instrument innovation. That became like a sort of a step up. If you could buy as opposed to a homemade instrument, then that was a status symbol in a way. So you could buy a steel string guitar and be playing that and learn some of these blues songs. So anyway, that's very long-winded because I'm reading about this right now. But if you look back, a lot of these, like Son House has a pony blues, there's catfish blues, there's a lot of also nature-based blues pieces. And so this idea of just kind of like relaxing after your insane, intense labor of thankless sharecropping. I'll go get the book in a second. All right, there's a couple books, but then hanging out on your little shack porch and kind of like getting back in touch with what you think is the real essence of life and playing some of these songs. That's my sort of romanticized image of what I like to do on my instrument and what some of those people like to do and what some of the monks perhaps were doing at the monasteries. They weren't necessarily picking up the flute to like jam along with their chants. I believe that they used the chant scales and the chant text and form as a jumping off point to sort of come up with their own reflective pieces that are maybe multi-purpose. And so the connection between flutes and the blues is there. The connection between Zen and Taoism and Swamp Thing is there. So that's a long-winded way, Will, of saying I think that's how it's worked for me. I've never thought about any other connection except like if you would go to the sort of New Orleans culture and you would go to the sort of Southern culture thing to find what Alan Moore was tapping into for Swamp Thing and what all of the blues, all the mythology of the blues comes out of. So they definitely intersect in terms of their context. So Arrington, this is the main, actually a harmonica player, blues harmonica player. So everybody can, Adam Gusau. And there's one other that is very well researched. This guy's a musician, so it has this whole very authentic feel to it. He's been teaches at Ole Miss, University of Mississippi. And Dawn's got one more question. Oh, pancake. You can't pick one. I mean, I get whole wheat blueberry pancakes at Barefoot Cafe in Fairfax, but last time we were there, literally the day or two before the stay-at-home happened on March 15th, I think, I got this incredible buttermilk cinnamon. They're also making like a cinnamon bread or cinnamon bun pancake. And the guy knows I always get whole wheat. And he said, whole wheat? And I said, no, do buttermilk. And it blew my mind. But then there's also at Uptown Cafe, if any Bloomington people are still on, everybody knows that I also get cottage cheese pancakes at the Uptown in Bloomington, Indiana. And they also have, cornmeal. So there's about 5 or 6 meals that are my favorite.
Lemon ricotta at Venus.
Girls. Oh yeah, lemon ricotta pancakes at Venus in Berkeley. Kevin, you know what Venus is still doing to go? He doesn't know. He's in Alameda, not going to Berkeley. Well, let's just check the inbox and emails. I said people can email me. So I don't know if there's any other questions, but there's some generous ticket admission submissions. Thanks everybody. Yeah, the Uptown, downtown. Yeah, that's right. Hey, you're welcome, Will. That is a shame. Yeah. What do you even eat? I bet you don't even have donuts. You have beignets. Now, the link between France and the Creole culture in New Orleans and jazz and blues, that could be a whole nother, that could be Morning Glory. Morning Glory. Wait a minute. Morning Glory is in Ashland. Is there one in Eugene also? I've been to Morning Glory in Ashland, Oregon. Okay, hold on. We're not getting off the call just yet, everyone. We have to figure out which Oregon cafes have which. And so because we're talking about the blues and the South, when I was in Memphis, I actually played at Ole Miss. So the song I played here today, Purgatory, I played that at University of Mississippi in 2014. And wow, I don't think it was there. I mostly remember McMinimans because I lived at 13th and Mill. And so I had the coffee roaster on one corner and High Street microbrew on the other corner. So if you're in Memphis, now if you look up Best Breakfast in Memphis, that's actually their logo. So Brother Juniper's, and I just anybody that uses monks as their mascot, you gotta love it, I think. And so I really went there every day that I was in Memphis, and I was there for 3 or 4 days doing stuff in Memphis University with the clarinet people, and also it's just an hour to Oxford, Mississippi. That's where the author of that other book teaches. Yeah, Willamette. By the way, that's pronounced Willamette. I don't know why. Well, I hope everybody has the means to make pancakes at home now that we've all got our appetites up. Oh, good. I'm glad I answered the question. Any other final thoughts from anybody before we sign off? We might as well just get up to an hour and 45 minutes. I'm just going to sit here for 3 minutes. What we haven't done is really considered, talking about the current situation we're in, because I prefer that we all forget about that for a while, which I think bread you can't beat, really. It's true. Pancakes smell good, but I'm gonna go with that. Perhaps it's what more could we really do with butter, flour, and water, and really make it amazing. So yeah, I don't know if you guys are doing, but finding places that are still doing to go stuff, to go food, and getting that in your local area. But I hope everybody's feeling good, getting into their inner world. We got lots of books. There's all kinds of blues you could be studying on YouTube. Suddenly I'm a blues advocate. Somebody's just joining us. Sorry, Vincent, I'm already done, but hello. Yeah, this has been actually really fun. I mean, it's a bit awkward. You're kind of not hearing anybody, but you can see them typing in over there. There's the Stein up here. There's some different. So final thoughts. Let's see if Bane is still up. Nicholas is still up. It's past your bedtime. Yeah. All right. Well, it looks like we're gonna end the stream. When I click the button, it's gonna say, "Are you sure?" And because this is so much fun, I'm not sure. But I think everyone should move on. Yeah, just a little bit tardy. I'm not even gonna play another note. But I think we are doing next Sunday at 2, even if it's much shorter. This was essentially the set that I had planned for the show with Kiku. Of course, Kiku and I would have done an improvisation duo, which we hadn't picked flutes for, but it was my recommendation that we would improvise which flutes we were going to pick, which means that I could have picked a flute that was partway between A flat and A, and she might have picked a flute that was in B. Thanks very much. We're going to see if this will stay up and people can watch the whole concert. I hope the sound and visual was okay and everybody's doing their part. Thanks, Mom. She says, good job. That's nice. Also, by the way, if other people are doing this, if you put big hearts and things like that in the side, it's really fun because then you see it when you're playing. So thanks for people who put heart emojis. Oh, that's right. Good point, Arrington. Yeah, I don't know if it might take a minute to process once it's not streaming, but maybe it goes right back. So next Sunday, the 12th, Easter Sunday, do your Easter thing. If you're not familiar with Easter, it celebrates the resurrection of Christ from the dead. And that's kind of a big deal. So we celebrate that. And after that, 2 o'clock here, and we might do requests or just meditation or maybe all Iron Maiden. Great. Okay, everyone. So we're going to tune out. Thanks so much. See you next time. Yeah. The joke's longer discussion. It's more of a how than a who. Yeah. All right, everybody. Yes. Pancakes and cats. Adios.